The people, my people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. No, they say, Trump, we love you too, man.
I remember exactly where I was when this really sank in for me. It was right after the 2016 election was called for Donald Trump. I was sitting in front of the TV feeling sick to my stomach because I honestly could not believe that this man was about to be president. And more than that, I couldn't believe so many people, including some of my friends, colleagues, and even family members, voted to make that happen. It wasn't a majority of voters, but it was enough people in the right places to give Trump the win fair and square. Starting the very next day, people who I knew had voted for Trump would come up to me and do what folks do after the big election. They'd ask me, so what do you think about the election? I didn't want it to get into a big discussion about it, so that one sentence popped right into my head and I went with it. I said, you know, I think Donald Trump himself summed it up best when he said that he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody, and not lose any supporters. That says everything there is to say about both Trump and his supporters, and it's not good. But here's the crazy thing about that, which has stuck with me for all these years. Every time I brought that quote up to Trump supporters, and I talked to more than a few, the reaction was almost identical. It was always some version of, oh, the media twists everything he says, or the media has this way of making Trump sound bad. I'm not making that up. An otherwise sane and intelligent person who I care about a lot literally said exactly that. Nobody denied he said it. Nobody agreed with that or thought it was a good thing to say. They just somehow blamed it on the media. But think about that for a second. The press didn't write that line for him. Someone at Dordt College, a conservative Christian private college in Sioux Center, Iowa, literally pointed a camera at the stage and recorded the whole event. Trump said something outrageous and disturbing, and so, yeah, that line was, of course, widely reported at the time. The media didn't twist anything. They just played back exactly what the man actually said. And somehow that became their fault. And for the record, there was nothing distorted or out of context about it. I watched the whole thing. He was going on and on and on, bragging on himself like he does. Anyone can go on YouTube and watch the whole thing. I'll put a link to it below. But let's really think about what the Fifth Avenue line was actually saying. I can do something obviously wrong, even violent, and my supporters will stick with me anyway. At the time, a lot of his supporters insisted that that wasn't really true. They said, that's just the media distorting what he said. But notice what they didn't say. They didn't say, yeah, that's right, we'd support him no matter what. At least not back then. They flinched. They deflected. They weren't ready to admit it. Yet. But here's what I've learned about predictions. It's not about whether people believe them. The real test is whether they come true. So let's check the record. Before the election, the Access Hollywood tape came out. I can grab them by the...
Yeah, that's it, with the gold. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case they start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just, I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the... I can do anything.
And that was only part of a long history of crude and demeaning comments about women over many years that came to light. Things like bragging about walking in on young women in dressing rooms at beauty pageants because he could get away with it. And the really creepy things he said about his own daughter. Any other candidate in history, that would be the end. Game over. I was absolutely convinced that with so much of Trump's support coming from evangelical Christians, that would be the final nail in his coffin. Boy, was I wrong. Then he mocked a disabled reporter on camera. You'd think that would hurt him, right? No. Attacked the Gold Star family? Crickets. Charlottesville happened. Very fine people on both sides. His supporters rallied to his defense. Now, all those are just terrible examples, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. But at least you could say, well, maybe they're just words, behavior, character issues. So let's talk about actual threats to national security. Helsinki, 2018. Trump stood next to Vladimir Putin on the world stage and sided with Russia over our own intelligence community. When asked directly who he believed about election interference, he chose Putin over our own people.
People came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
After all of the outrage, including from Republicans, he tried to walk it back the next day. He claimed he misspoke, and he said he meant wouldn't instead of would. It was beyond pathetic, and nobody bought it.
I actually went out and reviewed a clip of an answer that I gave. In a key sentence in my remarks, I said the word would instead of wouldn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia. So, just to repeat it, I said the word would instead of wouldn't.
Helsinki wasn't just humiliating for America. It was a blatant example of how easy it is to manipulate President Trump, because he's driven purely by his narcissism and ego and his interesting fascination for authoritarian leaders like Putin. If you stroke his ego, he warms up. If you criticize him or just disagree with him, he lashes out. North Korea went from fire and fury to love letters. Our longtime allies are alienated, while strong men like Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Erdogan become his best buds. Cabinet members are great until they aren't loyal enough. Overnight, they're all of a sudden weak, losers, or rhinos. And this isn't some 4D chess strategy. It's pure ego. And when ego is driving the car, anyone who knows how to push that button can grab the steering wheel. Then the classified documents. He took classified documents to Mar-a-Lago. When the National Archives asked for them back, a simple request to return government property, and that would have been the end of it. But he refused. He obstructed. He hid them from investigators. We're talking about documents related to national defense, nuclear secrets, intelligence sources, and he treated them like they were his personal property. They were souvenirs. Any other president, any other American with a security clearance would be in prison right now, and they wouldn't be getting out anytime soon. But for Trump and his supporters, it was just another typical Tuesday afternoon in the world of alternate facts called MAGA land. And then came January 6th. On January 6, 2021, a mob stormed the United States Capitol. People died. Police officers were beaten. The peaceful transfer of power, something we'd done without fail for over 2 centuries, was violently interrupted. The mob chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Trump said they were right to do that. And what happened to Trump's support? It hardened. In many circles, it went up. People wrapped themselves tighter in the flag, tighter in their identity, tighter around Trump. That Fifth Avenue comment in 2016 wasn't a joke. It wasn't the fake news media. He really said it. Now, it reads like a mission statement, because that's exactly what it was. He tested the limits. He found out that there weren't any, and he's acted accordingly ever since. You know, there's an old story about a frog in a pot of water. If you throw a frog into boiling water, it'll jump right out. But if you put it in cool water and slowly turn up the heat, it doesn't notice until it's too late and you have a cooked frog. Now, don't worry, it's just a metaphor. I promise no frogs were harmed. But back in 2016, people still had that jump out of the pot reflex. When Trump said the Fifth Avenue line, they flinched. They explained it away. The news media is making it sound worse than it is. That was the cool water, and the deflection was the dial being turned up just a little bit. But here's the thing about slowly raising the temperature. You get used to it. Each new outrageous comment makes the last one feel normal. Each new lie makes yesterday's lie seem quaint. Each new line crossed makes the previous line look like it never existed. Fast forward a few years, the water is boiling, and a lot of folks don't even feel it anymore. Now, this is where I have to stop and just ask, what happened to the values we claim to have? In America, we don't have kings. We don't have rulers who can do whatever they want because their followers will never leave them. The whole point of this country, the Constitution, elections, checks and balances, is that no one is supposed to be above accountability. And that's not a liberal or a conservative idea. That's an American idea. That's what we were all taught. And yet there he was, standing at a Christian college, telling his audience that he could get away with anything. And they laughed. One guy yelled out, "We love you." And I want to be very clear. I am not attacking anyone's faith. I'm talking about the basic values, basic decency that most of us share regardless of whatever faith tradition someone might follow. Basic honesty, accountability, the idea that character matters. And these are not partisan values. These are human values. They're the values we try to teach our kids. And here's what I just don't get about the people who voted for Trump, especially the people I've known for years or even my whole life. I mean, if any candidate I supported stood on a stage and said, "I could shoot someone and you'd still vote for me," I would be highly insulted. I mean, for me, that would be a deal breaker. He wasn't complimenting his supporters. He was calling them mindless. He was betting they wouldn't hold him accountable. He was bragging about it. And to give credit where credit's due, he was absolutely right. That's why I'm making this series. I'm not doing this because I enjoy arguing about politics. I percolated on this for more than 2 years because while I felt I needed to speak out or do something, there's a lot of reasons why people can't or don't want to put themselves out there. I'm doing this because we are living through a moment that is going to be judged by history. And I don't think it's going to be pretty. And silence, pretending not to notice what's happening, is a choice. My grandparents lived through their own turbulent times like everyone's grandparents did. And I have a handful of pictures of them and some stories and some old memories. But I can't pull up hours of video where they talk directly into a camera about what they believed, what they saw, and where they stood in real time in that moment. My great-great-grandchildren, though, they'll be able to do exactly that. 10, 20, 50 years from now, even 100 years from now, long after I'm gone, they'll be able to find this video and hear me say, "This is what I saw, this is what I thought, and this is where I stand." And you know what they say, once it's on the internet, it's forever. Well, okay then, let's do it. This is my record. So here's my challenge, and this is going to be an ongoing theme of this series. I'm going to be highlighting specific things that Donald Trump has said and done. Real clips, real quotes, real issues, and I'll be bringing the receipts. And if you think those words and deeds reflect doing what's right, acting with common sense and wisdom, reflecting your values, your American values, the values of your faith, the values you're teaching your kids, I want you to go on camera. Under your real name, look into the lens and explain it to your future grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Your phone will do just fine. Explain why this was okay. Give it your best shot to make the case why this was right, why this is the side of history you chose. I double dog dare you to do it. Post the video, share the link. I'll do my best to make sure it's preserved and searchable for decades. Because one day, the spell will break. I think it's already starting to happen. Trump will be gone from the scene. The MAGA movement won't exactly be seen as a bright spot in American history. But your record, what you said, what you defended, what you excused, that will all still be out there. So think very carefully about your record and your legacy, and if you're going to end up on the right side of history. That's the whole point of this exercise. The Fifth Avenue quote wasn't a joke. He really said it. And the last few years have proven just how right he was. The question now isn't just, who is he? We know who he is. He told us and he's shown us. The question is, who are we? Who are you? When your descendants look back at this moment, what side of history do you want them to see you on? And I know not everyone watching is going to agree with my take on things, and that's okay. That's kind of the whole point of this thing. But I do hope you'll stick around, hit the subscribe button, and let me know what you think in the comments. And if you're someone who does support Trump and thinks I've got it all wrong, then I really, really hope you'll take me up on that challenge. That's all I have for now. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.